Okay, so I really hope that you took the time to look over the study strategies for the various learning styles. And this sheet here shows, see if I can make it bigger. There we go. Just gives you some ideas of what you could do for your particular learning style so that you are utilizing it and really taking into consideration various things that you could do to make learning a little bit easier and to use the style that you scored the highest in. And as I said, I want you to really look at each and every one of these, consider things that you have done, as well as those that you'd like to start putting into place for yourself. And it's important that you look at every single one of these, not just for me as a visual learner, I'm not just going to look at the visual learning styles, but I'm going to look at auditory styles, and maybe talking through visual information is going to be something that I try and I find works really well for me. So looking at each of these to really determine, are there things that I could start doing that would help me to be a better student and help me to better retain information so that I can recall it when it comes time for an exam. All right, so let me flip this. No, this is in my way. Hold on, sorry. This is what you get to. This is what you like, right? Me struggling a little bit. All right, so move that. Okay, so some study strategies for visual learners. So I've just picked out a few things here for you to take into consideration. We've already talked about flashcards. You can use, the flashcards like I talked about on the ring. One thing I didn't mention is on your phone, right? So there are lots of apps for flashcards now that you can use electronically, and maybe you would find that really helpful for you. So again, thinking about the process of writing those flashcards, that's what really helps students, is writing out the flashcard. So maybe it's definitions you're trying to memorize. So the word on one side with the definition on the back. And so if you're typing that, are you getting the same result? That's something to think about. It's something to try. And then you determine, nope, the classic way of doing flashcards is better for me than electronic version, or no, the electronic version works great for me. Taking notes in class are going to be really important for visual learners. So by having those notes, you're able to go back and review those notes and to use that to prompt you to remembering different information. And one thing we'll talk about later on in the class is the importance of reviewing notes on a continuous basis and not just right before an exam, okay? So it's important to be able to move information from your short-term memory to your long-term memory, okay? Way deep down into your brain, you want to have that information so that you can recall it. And if you're only studying right before an exam, you're just putting it into that short-term memory bank. Using highlighters, like we talked about earlier. Writing summaries of key information. So, after you read for a set chunk of time, maybe 10, 15 minutes, write out the key information that you got from that reading, or same thing with notes. At the end of the day, write a summary of key information or type it out, whatever works well for you. A lot of visual learners like to study alone. That doesn't mean that you cannot be in a study group. It's just that oftentimes visual learners like to process that information on their own. And we'll talk about utilizing study groups throughout the class. All right, so auditory learners sitting up front in the class, okay? And what we'll talk about eventually in listening skills is sitting in what's called the T-zone, okay? So up front and down the middle. So that you can really focus in on what is being said. If you're in a traditional classroom, you're online, obviously, you're sitting up front. You can ask to tape lectures so that you could listen to them later, but you need to ask the instructor. Some instructors may say no, and you need to respect that. Reciting your notes aloud. So reading your notes to yourself so that you, again, can process that information of what it is that you're taking in. Talking through visual information. So instead of, in your textbook, what I used to do is, sweet, there's a chart, I'm skipping it. Nope, you're spending time looking at that information and talking through it, okay? And then teaching someone else, like we talked about earlier with my student and his pups. Kinesthetic learners using physical objects to grasp abstract concepts. So think about when you were a kid and you were doing math, right? What did you do? You went and got, let's say, paper clips, okay, to count things out. Or you used a box of crayons and you took out those colors. Or, you used the little contraption with the balls on it. Can't think of what that thing's called. So using objects to help you in grasping that information, things that you can touch, you're going to remember it, okay? Act out information. And it sounds silly, but go in your room and close the door. Who cares? You're going to remember it if you're moving around, okay? Next one right there is move around as you're studying. Maybe you're on the treadmill or you're out for a walk or you're on the bike, doing something to move around as you're studying, or just moving around your room or your house can help you as well. Keeping your study period short, as we talked about, and then doing something as you're studying can be helpful. Think about when you were a kid and how learning was fun, right? Most of us, not everybody, most of us look forward to going to school. We enjoyed that. One, it was when we got to see our friends, but two, our teachers tended to make it fun. And somewhere along the way, we lose that playfulness of learning and it becomes more of a chore. And so you want to try to find a way to get that playfulness back so that you can enjoy this process. You can enjoy the things that you're learning and be applying them for future use, or maybe it's towards Trivial Pursuit. I don't know. But finding ways to make that learning fun for yourself. Okay? All right. So your reflection questions are around around learning styles. So I hope that you've gotten a lot of information out of the information presented this week. And I think that if you start to put some of these strategies to use for yourself, you'll see a big difference in the way that you're performing in the classroom.